All right, all right. So we've got our little group here. Welcome everybody to Cellframe Social Twitter Spaces. Gonna get going here. All right. So here was my idea. Right, about a week ago, I was listening to a podcast with my favorite internet friend, Nick Mullen. And this is a podcast from 2018, and I got to give it to the guy. He's a comedian. He's not a technologist or a philosopher, but I got mad. And this is the idea of this Twitter Spaces. Sometimes we get mad. Sometimes we want to say some shit. Sometimes we want to tell somebody to fuck off. And that's what the idea of this Twitter Spaces is all about. So here's what happened. So I'm listening to Nick Mullen podcast. I was YouTubing it, and I came across this podcast he made in 2018. All right, granted he's a comedian, whatever. His whole idea about being a FinGoth, anyway, he's a crypto guy, right? So this is a guy who started investing in crypto, back in the day, probably like 2017, 18. And this dude gets invited onto another podcast in 2018, and these ladies from Red Scare, they want to ask him what crypto's all about, because they know that this guy's been investing in crypto, he's been researching it or whatever. And what does this motherfucker say? He says, "Yeah, crypto's nobody really understands it. There's not really a good use case for it yet, except buying shit off the dark web or, paying for, drugs on the internet. There's no good use case for crypto. Basically, what you want to do is get into crypto and try to ride the bull run. And then when that ends up, you want to dump your shit onto some other asshole until they, to make money, basically, right? When it goes back down." So I have a hit list today, and the first character on my hit list is a dumbass who goes on the internet and tries to tell people about crypto who doesn't know shit about crypto, okay? So if you're out there telling people about crypto and you don't know what the hell it is, stop, all right? All right, I respect people who want to make money, all right? If you want to go out there and you want to, you want to just ride the bull run and you want to trade crypto and you don't understand what it is, fine, make money. But don't go out there and try to tell people about crypto if you don't know what the hell it is. So this guy was, my internet friend Nick Mullen was out there telling people that all you need to do is get in on crypto on a bull run and then dump it on some other asshole, and that there's no good use cases. There's no good use cases for crypto? Excuse me? All right, let's start with... Let's start with what is the fundamentals of a blockchain, Bitcoin, obviously breakthrough technology, Bitcoin. It's basically internet money, okay? So when the internet revolution happened, we had the telegraph, we had telephones, we had books, we had all kinds of carriers of information, but these were limited geographically by the fact that you had to carry a book across land to give it to someone else. You couldn't really telegraph a book to other people. You could fax somebody a book, but when the internet came along, information became free. You could essentially, people from different countries could share information across the world instantaneously. This was a beautiful thing, okay? So that's Web 1, we all know Web 2, social media, people creation. Web 3, I don't really like the term, but what we have now, what is crypto? Web 3, crypto is internet money, okay? We have the internet, a medium for transmitting information across boundaries, across state lines, across countries, without any limitations, essentially. But and we know that information is valuable. Some say that Information is the black gold, the oil or the gold of the 21st century. But we had no system for transmitting value across the internet. So with the Bitcoin algorithm, with blockchain technology, oh shit, my cat is biting me, excuse me. It's internet money, right? So whereas we had free movement of information across the world, now we have free movement of value across the world with the peer-to-peer blockchain technology that allows distributed currency without a centralized system. So before Bitcoin, there was no internet money. Now we have internet money. And Mr. Nick Mullen, let me explain to you in a way that you can understand it. You know, you use Patreon, a system that allows people to pay you for your information that you send out there. You have your hilarious podcast where you're, you have this amazing character of a thin goth who likes to who takes pleasure in losing vast quantities of money on the internet. It's beautiful. You have this character, you have your podcast, and people send you money. But how does that money get sent? It is through a centralized system that has gatekeepers, that is vulnerable to counterparty risk, because you're dealing with essentially a centralized system. The global banking system is run by what's essentially a cabal or a multi-monopoly of groups who are in touch with each other and have a centralized system for calculating who has how much money. So Bitcoin is the first truly decentralized protocol for sending value across the internet, okay? So it's internet money. That's use case number one. Let's take it a little bit deeper. If you are unbanked, if you are somehow shut off from the international banking system, by the way, I want to give a big shout out to CellVPN. Right now, I happen to be in a jurisdiction that has blocked Twitter. Okay, I'm using CellVPN to be on Twitter Spaces right now. I don't know, I might be in Iran, I might be in Myanmar, maybe North Korea, who knows? Shout out to CellVPN, a distributed VPN service for taking down the national borders that exist. All right. So if you happen to be an unbanked person, if you happen to live in a country where the banking system is not developed, if you happen to live in a country where the banking system has been shut off for political reasons, Bitcoin, you know that Bitcoin has a utility. So internet fools who are out there telling me that crypto has no utility and that it's just an investment mechanism for you to dump on somebody else, shut the fuck up. All right? Use case number two. Yeah, if you have a podcast and you want to get, and maybe you have fans in Myanmar, maybe you have fans in Iran, you want to get money from them, please use cryptocurrency. All right. Use case number two. The IDO, a crypto asset that backs a company. Now, we had the ICO movement, and then it got a little bit out of hand. A lot of scams came up, and then now we have kind of a resurgence of software development companies who are financed by global retail investors. Okay, so say you are a person in Vietnam who maybe you had a great educated parents, maybe they worked all their life in a taxi cab company and they gave you a good education, and you are a brilliant software developer. Oh, sorry, you don't live in Silicon Valley. Sorry, you don't have connections to venture capital firms. You can't go into a room and seduce a venture capitalist to give you money. Now, in the 1990s when the internet bubble happened, you were fucked. So now, if you actually have a company that has, you can develop a utility around your token, and you can actually launch a startup through, amazing Now there are amazing launch pads like TrustSwap, who Cellframe has worked with in the past, who take out the risk of a scam. They do KYC, everything is good, and they let people from anywhere in the world start a company and get financing from small investors all over the world. Now, if you think that that's just a scam or whatever, that's bullshit. This is amazing. You don't have to be a freaking plugged-in person in California to start a tech company. Okay, so that's use case number 2. Shout out to all the tech startups out there who have a crypto use case and are raising money that way and are doing amazing work. All right. So that's my little rant about crypto. And you know what? All right. So I'm going to move on to the next person on my hit list. All right. I'm going to try to finish this up in about 15, 20 minutes and let people speak. I want to have this a discussion. This format for crypto for Cellframe After Dark. This is a format that I want to have guests. I want to have a lot of engagement. But today I'm going to start out with a little rant because I've got a lot of shit pent up. All right. So the next person on my hit list is fucking Sam Bankman-Fried. All right, and this can go into a category of people who don't know what the hell decentralization is. People who say that, the collapse of SBF is the death of crypto. What? This is a guy who created a company based on his, maybe some small software development skills. This is a kid who was a rich kid in California. His parents were both corporate lawyers who taught at Stanford. They were plugged into the US government. Why did Sam Bankman-Fried get billions of dollars? Because he was plugged into the US banking system, to the US regulatory system, and they thought that, hey, finally we have a crypto guy who has all the answers, who has a decent thing for us, and we can all invest in it, and let's give this guy $1 billion. He made a decent exchange, and whatever, and then he fucked it up, right? But that's not what crypto is all about. Anyone who knows about all right, on my hit list also is Bitcoin maximalists, but this is something that Bitcoin maximalists truly understand, is that if you don't hold your tokens, if you're not in custody of your tokens, you're basically just participating in a new banking system. So, all right, fuck Bankman-Fried and his elite circle jerk and throwing money to the wind and giving, paying money to like stupid Democratic and Republican politicians and like celebrities to pump a so-called crypto product that actually is not decentralized at all. Hey, you know what? I love all our exchanges. I use Binance. Cellframe has a great relationship with Gate.io. Thank you to all the people doing great work out there in the centralized exchange space. But if you think that Sam Bankman-Fried was the death of crypto, then you got some learning to do. The next person on my hit list is Mr. Bitcoin. All right. I'm going to tell you guys a story. I was first, this is early days of me being into the blockchain space, and I went to Istanbul. And I was really excited, I was like, yeah, I heard Turkey has great adoption of crypto. And I was like, I went online and I found a meetup, a group of Bitcoin meetup, and I started texting them in Telegram. And they laughed at me because I was interested in coins other than Bitcoin. You know what? They basically started abusing me and kicked me out of the group because I wasn't a Bitcoin guy. Look, I love the Bitcoin protocol. It's a revolutionary protocol. It's beautiful. Possibly Bitcoin will be like the currency or the gold of the future, whatever. I'm not an anti-Bitcoin person. But if you're a person who doesn't want to talk to anyone who has any other blockchain idea, because you're like a Bitcoin guy, and if you think that every other coin except for Bitcoin is a shit coin. Fuck off, okay? Like I saw this guy at a conference in New York. He was like, he was like a Bitcoin magazine editor or something like that, and he had this. He tried to be civil, but you could tell he was like thought everything else was a shitcoin. Excuse me. All right. First of all, I mean, Cellframe is essentially competing with Ethereum, but Ethereum is an amazing also innovation. They stand on the shoulders of Satoshi Nakamoto and the Bitcoin algorithm, but they developed it into an amazing new platform. And Cellframe is essentially what I would call a third generation crypto blockchain platform. So if you're still stuck in Bitcoin exclusivity, fuck off, okay? Because Bitcoin is great. Bitcoin, people, think it's like the new gold. Fine. It's got that use case. Good. We've got other use cases. I'm going to get into that in a second. I'm going to go back to my first point about people who think that crypto has no real use case except pumping and dumping. All right, so that's it on my hit list. I'm just going to go back into the use case thing. Here's something that my friend, my internet friend Nick Mullen, who thinks that crypto has no use case, here's something that he would also like. This is a use case that Cellframe is actively building right now. We're going to bring cloud computing into the hands of the people. Okay? So we have right now major cloud computing companies like Amazon. They make billions of dollars doing cloud computing, selling server space, selling computer power to companies, to individuals. Why not have a blockchain system that allows individual computer owners to create a cloud network? So this is something that's sometimes called edge computing or fog computing. Some startups like Filecoin is popping off right now. This is, they don't call it edge or fog, they just call it distributed computing, peer-to-peer computing. Why should we rely on Amazon to host server farms for all our data and transmission? Me and you, everyone has computers at home. 90% of the time, they don't do anything. So let's make good use of our metal. This is a sweet term that I got from the Russian programming space. We call it metal. That's what you call having a hard drive, having a video card. All that shit is metal. Use your metal, Nick Mullen, I got a shout out to you. You like equipment, you like having it used well. Say you have, maybe you bought some mining hardware for Ethereum and it went to proof of stake. Now you can use that in this, not right now, but Cellframe is developing a system for video conferencing using video cards that are located in individuals' homes. So you can sign up to the Cellframe network and you just start providing that service, routing video around. We also have a project in Cellframe to create an AI training algorithm that individuals can run on their home computers and get rewards for them. So this is again back to the concept of internet money. You run an AI algorithm on your computer and the Cellframe blockchain, drops little bits of money into your wallet for your computing power. So you're already paying for electricity, you're already paying for internet, you already bought a computer, put that to use. Our vision is that in the future, big cloud computing services won't even be necessary. Maybe Amazon will lose a bit of its revenue stream because we're going to build a network of people who are going to share their computing power with each other, be reimbursed for it. It's a beautiful thing. So anyone out there who just thinks that Bitcoin has that crypto has no clear use case is wrong, because there are use cases that are already implemented, and there are use cases that are coming up that are simply revolutionary. So, that's about it. And you know what? Before I open it up, I'm gonna give one last shout out on my hit list. People who come into our social networks and all they care about is when mainnet. All right, if you don't, launching a mainnet is is an important part of the process of creating a blockchain. But we are building incredible tools. We've already demonstrated in testnet form. We already have a user community. So if you're, we have people testing. We're going to open up a public testnet on a release candidate soon. We already have Kel VPN running on Cellframe. So if anyone's out there who is all they care about is when mainnet, look, just educate yourself, all right? Um, we are we're going to launch our mainnet when it's ready because it's dangerous to launch a mainnet when it's not ready. You're going to get hacked and then you're fucked. All right, so we're going to prove the stability of our mainnet. We have an incredible team of 35 plus programmers in various countries. We have commits coming from different countries on our open source code. So that's Cellframe. And now I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And let's see. If you guys want to speak, how does this work? You raise your hand or... All right, Samir, what's up, man? You're on. Samir. What's up, Samir? Are you on? You want to say something? This isn't Ask Me Anything. I'm done being mad. Now we're just chilling and talking about Cellframe. You know, one thing that I can transition to talking about. You know, if anyone wants to speak, please sign on. This is the quantum apocalypse. Dun dun dun. We had a good question about the quantum apocalypse on the last AMA with Dmitry. Someone was mentioning a Finnish computer that was recently run that had 5 qubits. And of course, the answer from Dmitry, the question was, you know, have any of the algorithms been tested by quantum computers? And the answer is no, because you know, to actually hack the current encryption of Bitcoin and other encryption methods, you have to have a much larger quantum computer. But every day we have news trickling in about proofs of concept and new progress being made in the quantum sphere. So I want to make a website that has a countdown to quantum apocalypse. All right, Mr. Samir, you're on, baby.
Yeah. Actually, why can't deliver a proper deadline for the mainnet?
Sorry, can you go again? Say again, please.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Just a little bit. Yeah, just ask one more time, please.
Actually, why can't deliver a proper deadline for the mainnet release?
A proper date.
So many times it's delayed. Yeah, proper deadline for mainnet release.
Well, sir, have you ever worked with developing a blockchain network? I mean, I think this is something that we've explained before. Yeah, the whole when mainnet thing. Dmitry. Yeah.
But so many times it's delaying.
Okay, so Dmitry, address this and let me talk a little more in depth about that right now. Thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, I was not part of the company back when we had the whole announcement and the delay. There was some kind of major issue where they had to rewrite the code from scratch after that. But basically, developing a blockchain network is one of the most, especially since we at Cellframe are developing the code base 100% on our own, right? We're not using any third-party software as some other blockchains use. And actually, in the recent hacks that have happened, some of the issues have happened because of third-party software and vulnerabilities in that software. So we're developing a blockchain network completely from scratch, written in C code, and nobody has done this before. So there's no possible way to understand how long development will take because it requires testing and stress testing in order for a final product to be approved. So when we can tell you when we will finish writing some code, we can have a development timeline when we're going to write a piece of code, but we can't tell you what kind of tests, what will be the result of the tests. Okay, so we have a release candidate ready to go. That code is ready. We can tell you that code is there. We cannot tell you what will be the result of testing and stress testing that code. Okay, so if we tell you that it's going to be released in a month, which is basically the predicted outcome at this moment, we cannot tell you that for sure that will happen because some vulnerability, some bug may pop up in the testing process.
Okay.
Okay, so this is why we're not doing a testnet date. If you look at or a mainnet date, if you look at any big blockchain projects, most blockchain projects are hesitant to release mainnet. If you look at historical blockchain projects like Ethereum, it's not all about the mainnet. It's about the work being done on the blockchain. So that's it. All right. Do we have any other questions from Samir or any other people who want to jump in?
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, sir. All right. Somebody jump in here, baby. This is Cellframe After Dark. I mean, I can, I want to keep riffing on the whole quantum thing. From what I know about Cellframe, I've been here for about less than a year, but almost. And they've been going at it for about 5 years. Dmitry Gerasimov came up with the idea and wrote the first code, I think about 5 years ago. And at that time, they were going through to different venture capitalists, different investors, and asking them about, how interested are they in a quantum proof blockchain. Now think back 5 years ago, so 2018. Y'all are seeing a lot every day, like in my newsfeed. I know my newsfeed obviously gets tailored to my interests, but I see new interesting articles about quantum computing development every day. 5 years ago, that was not the case. 5 years ago, the Cellframe founders were going around to investors and asking people what, hey, what do you want to invest in a quantum-proof blockchain with, good speed and scalability and everything else? And people saw that post-quantum thing and they thought it was science fiction, okay? Does anybody who's following technology today still think that quantum computing is science fiction? Obviously not. One excellent proof of this is that hackers and criminals are now stealing data that is encrypted, that is in order to, in the future, decrypt it and do some criminal shit with it. All right, I can't remember exactly what the terminology is, but it's basically called like hack now, decrypt later attacks. Right, so if criminals know that quantum computers are on the way, it's for real. You know that it's not hype because these people want to make money and they don't give a shit about science fiction or hype. All right, so now it's 2023. Every day we have new news about quantum computing. You have new teams signing online, new teams getting onto the bandwagon all across the world, building quantum computers. You've got, major companies, IBM, doing incredible work with that stuff. So if you thought that 5 years ago the quantum apocalypse was not on the way, now nobody's thinking that. You got to be living under a rock to think that quantum computing is science fiction. And what does that mean? This goes back to my whole rant about Bitcoin maximalists. Like, we've got a gentleman from America who got in touch with us at Cellframe, and they have a very interesting project. I can shout them out. It's called CureCoin, and CureCoin, they fit really well with the Cellframe vision. They've got a system for doing calculations for medical research, biomedical research, right? So, gene research, all kinds of medical research requires a lot of computing power. Biotech companies use a lot of cloud computing services in order to sort of do a lot of just data crunching. And this company, CureCoin, is trying to do a blockchain-based system for that. So, we've got people at home who want to help cure cancer. They can crunch numbers for a cancer research company, and they can help out with that. And, with CureCoin, you can even make a little money off that. If you want to donate that back to a medical cause, great. So their company fits really well with us. But the thing is, this guy is like, he came to us and he's like, yeah, I want to work with you guys, but also let's fix Bitcoin and make it quantum proof. Hopefully sometime down the line, we can save Bitcoin from the quantum apocalypse. I sincerely hope that happens. I hope that Cellframe, once we get the funding, we can do some research into that question. But right now, if you're married to a legacy blockchain and you don't know about the quantum apocalypse coming up, you're in a bind. It might be a decade from now, Bitcoin gets hacked and the network is no longer viable. I'm sorry to say. I mean, I love Bitcoin. I love Bitcoiners. But right now, there's no, unless you become a parachain of Cellframe, you bridge the Cellframe network or some other system that can support quantum-proof signatures, Bitcoin might be fucked. Ethereum has a good history of doing upgrades. They have to do hard forks for all their upgrades. Hopefully, they can quantum-proof themselves. Maybe not. So people say, what is Cellframe's ambition? Well, we think we have the best blockchain out there, and it happens to be quantum-proof, and that might take it to the top. Now, okay, let's not get too gloom and doom here. I hope the entire crypto ecosystem will survive any kind of quantum apocalypse scenario, but that's it. There we go. All right, we got Mr. Mint requesting to speak here. Let's go. Where are you at? Approve. What's up, Mr. Mint? Mr. Mint has dropped out of the request to speak line. That's cool. That's cool. All right, here's my question to y'all. How Cellframe? If you go on the Cellframe website, we've got this. Our first line is service-oriented blockchain platform. Now, to me, that I understand what that means. It goes back to what I said earlier. We can help people provide peer-to-peer services. When I listen to Dmitry talk about what he's developing, we're developing ConfCall, which is a peer-to-peer video conferencing service providing system, right? We've already got KelVPN, which is a peer-to-peer VPN system. And we've got the new AI plugin that is going to be a distributed AI training algorithm. And we're going to build more. Hopefully we'll integrate CureCoin. Shout out to Chris at CureCoin. and there's tons of these applications. So this very simple phrase, a service-oriented blockchain network, actually has a lot of depth to it, because service providers right now are essentially big companies, right? Who do you go to if you're a biomedical research firm? Maybe you're a VPN provider, or maybe you're Zoom and you need to shuttle video and audio around the globe between people. You go to the big boys. All right. So a service-oriented blockchain, and we have this concept of TDApps, true DApps, right? It not only can we build a DApp on Cellframe that allows people to provide services to each other, the DApps are truly distributed, which means that there's no single smart contract owner. So once the plugin essentially is launched, anyone can go in there and no one can shut it off, no one can take all the money and bounce or whatever. So this is a truly distributed peer-to-peer system. Now, what kind of peer-to-peer systems are out there already? The most famous one is torrent, right? How do we, of course, as an American, torrent is kind of a little bit dead in America because the big movie companies came up with really nice streaming services, and the internet providers started like sending out a lot of letters to people so that the people don't really pirate stuff anymore. Whatever, it's not even about piracy, right? Peer-to-peer file sharing, and how is that incentivized? Torrent, for example, I downloaded a video from torrent recently, not because I don't have the money to buy it, but because it's just not available anywhere. Happens to be an art opera by Matthew Barney called The River of Flame. Nobody has this to sell. It's not on Netflix or Amazon Prime. They're amazing there's an amazing collection of old films out there on torrent. This is a community of peer-to-peer file sharing, file downloading, that is incentivized essentially by people wanting to do good for each other in exchange for the service that they get from other people, right? So torrent works well. People are incentivized just by altruism, essentially, and that's great. But if you take that system and drop a little bit of internet money into it, right? Going back to my first point about what is blockchain, it's the ability to share value as easily as one can share data, right? So let's say you take torrent and you add like a small incentive to it for people to seed, you get a better system. And actually, the system is actually better than any kind of cloud computing service that can be out there because it can be local, right? So Dmitry has this story about how he was, he had to download something from torrent. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't because he didn't have the money, but he needed a file that was only available on torrent. And he was actually able to download it faster than his own internet connection allowed, because apparently, somebody like in the next building over was seeding this file. So the kind of networks that we can have that are peer-to-peer are actually more robust and powerful and fast than what the centralized sources can provide. All right, Mr. Mint is back. Let's see if I can get him on. Mr. Mint has once again approved him to talk, and he has once again dropped out. All right. Well, hey, I love that everyone's out here listening. This is going to be recorded, and hopefully people can listen to it later. But and also, this format, Cellframe After Dark, if it works, I'm hoping to continue it. Hopefully this is a good time for people. We're going to have, we have a lot of partnerships, and hopefully we can get some guests on so I won't just be monologuing. Maybe be a little less dead air, maybe be a little more casual out here. But once again, today it's just me ranting. And one cool thing about that I've noticed in the past few days in terms of Bitcoin and crypto adoption is that we finally hit a moment where crypto has decoupled from the general stock market or the general tech indexes, right? So for a few years, we've had this strange phenomenon where basically Bitcoin and Ethereum and other crypto assets who are very much tied to Bitcoin and Ethereum have gone up and down as the stock market goes up and down. And the stock market, pretty much, as we now know, goes up and down based on what the Federal Reserve chairman committee decide. So at this point, we've had the Silicon Valley Bank crash. Whew, shout out to my boys in Silicon Valley, but y'all had your comeuppance. It's about time because the tech industry got so big, got so centralized, got so overvalued. We had the internet bubble, and now we have basically the Web 2.0 bubble bursting. We've got over-leveraged companies. I feel real bad for the Y Combinator companies that are out there that are suffering from the Silicon Valley Bank crash. I'm sure they're doing good work, but I can't help but have a little bit of schadenfreude and a little bit of happiness over the fact that right now Bitcoin has, I think this is the first time that crypto has decoupled from the asset market since, I don't know, since Bitcoin hit like 15,000 and since institutional investors got in, right? So as soon as big institutional investors, I know JP Morgan had a funny thing where Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, was trash talking Bitcoin, but then secretly their investment bank branch was buying up huge amounts of it because everyone knows that digital assets are the future. So these big banks started buying up Bitcoin and other digital assets, and and that's what caused the Bitcoin to essentially link to the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, actually more accurately. And now I think we're seeing the first moment of decoupling. I'm not going to root for a banking crisis in America to get worse, but I think all of us who are in crypto have that in the back of our minds, as the more the banks show their ass, the more crypto looks bright and shiny. And this isn't new. The Bitcoin algorithm, as many of you know, emerged from the bank crisis in 2008. And I can tell a little bit about my own experience with that. That's actually how I got into crypto. So I was 18, living in Ohio, and I chose to go to college at New York University, which is in Manhattan, lower Manhattan, not too far from Wall Street, right? And I went there for film school, and I mostly hung out with, artist types who didn't know shit about finance. But I'd actually I had an amazing history teacher who made us all read the Financial Times. He got those pink newspapers delivered to our school every day, and then we all had them in our locker. My boy Delence had a locker full of these pink newspapers. So I was kind of into finance. I was an artsy kid. I went to NYU in 2004. That was the year I started, and I joined the water polo team. And water polo, I'm a swimmer, and I like to get physical with it. So water polo is a great sport for me, but water polo happens to be a very elite sport in America. It's mostly like kids from private schools play water polo. So on my water polo team were these finance kids, and NYU has a great film school, but they also have one of the best undergraduate finance business programs in America. And so on my water polo team were these dudes who had their already had internships at Wall Street banks. 2005, 2006. These guys were interning. They had the Financial Times tucked under their arm. They were walking around, strutting around. And I started, being more interested also, talking to them, living in Lower Manhattan actually at the time on Wall Street. And 2008, there was suddenly this crisis, right? Nobody saw it coming except, those guys from The Big Short who realized that mortgage-backed securities were kind of a scam. And when all that shit happened, I started reading the Financial Times again. I had a trip to Europe. You could buy that newspaper basically on any kiosk in Milan or Paris. And I was reading it every day, and it was amazing because in 2008, when everything collapsed, you could essentially read. You could read a textbook on how the financial industry works based on journalists describing how it all fell apart, right? So everyone was like, "Hey, Bear Stearns collapsed. What's an investment bank, right?" And then investment banks banks have a retail window at the Federal Reserve. What's the Federal Reserve? Oh, okay. So the Federal Reserve has control over the money supply. What's the money supply? What is money? Right, so 2008 was an amazing moment to be interested in finance, but to be an outsider. And I think that is essentially what happened with Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, or they are. People do not want to trust a bank. The more evidence we have about counterparty risk, about the trustworthiness of banks, about the Michael Saylor constantly talks about the hidden inflation that goes behind so-called economic growth, right? So if housing prices have, quadrupled in the last 20, 30 years or whatever, to some that's an asset increasing in value, but to others that's inflation. You have incidents in the past years, even after Bitcoin emerged. You have the incident in Cyprus, where when the when the country had a financial crisis, they did a so-called bail-in, right? So they basically gave a haircut to bank deposits in the country, right? So if you have bank deposits in any country, you can get a haircut. In the normal scheme of things, you'll just be taxed and everything is fine. But if there's a crisis, they can take your money. So I just want to say that Cellframe is not a centralized. It's not oriented towards becoming a centralized regulated thing. It's oriented towards the true concept of blockchain, which is power to the people, peer-to-peer money, taking advantage of the technology that you purchased to give it to other people for services, and all that good stuff. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to be wrapping up unless somebody else wants to jump on. I can't do this alone. Next time, hopefully we'll have a guest, or hopefully we'll get some people jumping in. Come on, who's got a question? Who's got a comment? Go off, Kings. Anyway, that's about it. Hopefully, everyone's talking about crypto winters, crypto summers, bounces, mainnet launches. Okay, listen, I don't want to give anyone a bad impression. The devs at Cellframe are extremely optimistic about the mainnet launch happening, on schedule. check out our roadmap. Don't give any promises. But it is an exciting moment in crypto, I gotta say. I was, as some of you may have seen me on YouTube, I did a little tour of America, went to a few crypto conferences, and everyone is talking about regulation. What's the SEC gonna say? I recently read a thing where the SEC is actually claiming that Ethereum is a security. Okay, now if any if any digital asset out there is not a security, it's Ethereum. But they're looking into like Vitalik, how much control does he still have, etc. Look, Ethereum is going to live on beyond Vitalik. Vitalik could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I doubt that Ethereum is going to suffer. God bless him. Long life, Vitalik. Love you, buddy. But anyway, if the SEC is saying that the Ethereum token is a security, well, you know what? Like, I think things will change. I think that there will be a new regime in America. Not a regime, but a wave of fresh blood in politics. And one thing I did get, one sense I did get from talking to a lot of crypto people in America is that America is all about business, and nobody wants to get left behind, right? So none of them want to be sitting on the sidelines while digital assets are booming in other countries, right? So let's say like, and it's kind of cool how very small countries have been able to adopt blockchain early. I think Nicaragua, if I'm not wrong. Anyways, some smaller some smaller South American countries have been able to get ahead of it. We've got places like Turkey, which has had monetary issues in the past. Erdogan's economics aren't exactly great for the lira, and we've got people adopting it there. We've got people I know Vietnam happens to be one of the highest rates of adoption for crypto. And I think because of that competitive nature that the American system will not be left behind on blockchain. And so everyone is worried that the SEC, thinks that Ethereum is a security. But I think if you give it a few years, we'll have fresh blood in the system, and even the SEC will suddenly do a 360 or 180 and suddenly be welcoming all kinds of crypto projects and saying, hey, come to America to build your crypto project, right? Don't go to Brazil. Shout out Diablo, our Brazilian buddy. Oh, I don't want to dox you, but anyway, that's also another country where crypto's huge. Also, probably partially in relation to the instability of the banking system there, and also the creativity and dynamism of the population there. So, anyway, that's it for me, buddies. No one is signing on to speak, so it is 23:59. This is Cellframe After Dark. Hope whichever time zone you're in, you're having a good evening or a good morning. I did a special research to figure out where the most crypto users are in which time zones. So we've got basically North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, China, Bangkok. Everybody's in the house. And get at me. Y'all can tweet at me on Cellframe Social. Join us next week. I'm going to do this again. And meanwhile, Get on KelVPN. This has been great. I don't think there's been any problems. KelVPN has brought you my voice across long distances. All right. Peace out, everyone. Good night.